TikTok, time to rock. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon to everyone who's watching from all over the world. I'm your friendly neighborhood philosopher, David Wood, and with me now is the one and only, the mighty Robert Spencer. How you doing, Robert?
Just great, David. Thanks. How are you?
Good, good, good. Been a while, been too long. So what's been going on with you?
Well, that's a very interesting question to ask me. I have a new book out, but it has nothing to do with Islam and jihad, and that's the first for me. But don't worry, I'll be getting right back to the topic with the next one, which is coming down the pike in another couple weeks. So anyway, that's what I've been doing.
You seem to crank out lots of books.
Nothing else to do. I guess I could make videos. Every time I make a video on Jihad Watch, people say, it's been 7 months. Why don't you make videos more often? And I think if I could be like David Wood, then I would.
Everyone wants to be like David Wood. You got a question here from Andrew Elliott. Does he live in a suit?
Yeah. Yes, actually, I do. This is actually my pajamas. And, I was just napping, so
yeah,
I didn't dress.
You could save yourself some time and just get a full body tattoo of a suit all over you.
Actually, I have that. You just didn't notice.
Yeah. Now, so we're going to be talking a bit. We're going to be talking a bit about some situations.
What we have here is a situation.
We've got a situation, all right.
That's right.
How much of the situation have you been following? So kind of the most recent developments, they kind of started when Mohammed Hijab had Sheikh Yasser Qadhi on his channel and then started pressing him with questions. Sheikh Yasser Qadhi got very uncomfortable. There was a massive backlash because Yasser Qadhi admitted that the standard Muslim narrative about the history of the Quran doesn't work, and he said there are holes in the narrative. And he said in effect, when we bring our arguments over to Western scholars who don't have a red line, they'll just destroy our arguments, and we know they're right because they're quoting our sources. And so that led to lots of people doubting Islam and so on. And then there was this massive fitna. I don't know how else to describe it. Everyone starts flipping out on Yasser Qadhi. They're flipping out on Mohammed Hijab. Everyone finds out that Fareed from Fareed Responds, he's the one that leaked Yasser Qadhi's emails, which led to everything. Everyone's flipping out on everyone else. And then what you have is these people trying to kind of redeem themselves. And so how much of this have you been following?
Well, I have to confess, I did not know this part about Yasser Qadhi.
Oh.
I thought this was a controversy between hijab and some of the ex-Muslims. So all this part is new to me. But it's fascinating. I do know that Shabir Ali actually admitted that the idea that there's only one perfect copy of the Quran with no textual variations, he admitted that was false recently. And if Qadhi did as well, this is extraordinary. The whole edifice is crumbling before our very eyes.
Yeah, and that's why it was absolutely amazing, because it's similar to the situation with jihad, terrorism, and so on. We spend years trying to convince people who do not want to listen to reason, do not want to listen to evidence. We're telling people about what Islam teaches about jihad and subjugating unbelievers and so on. We keep telling people they don't want to listen, and they just think we're liars, we're Islamophobes. And it's parallel to the situation where Muslims are running around saying the Quran's been perfectly preserved right down to the letter. And, we're quoting Muslim sources and showing, no, entire chapters came up missing, large passages came up missing, verses are eaten by a sheep. There are tens of thousands of differences in modern Qurans. Uthman had to burn all of the Qurans to cover up the differences. Muhammad's top scholars of the Quran couldn't even agree on which chapters were supposed to be in the Quran after he died. It's a disaster. It's an epic dumpster fire situation, and you guys are saying perfect preservation. No one believes us, and all of a sudden Shabir Ali and Yasser Qadhi just blurted out, and now everyone realizes that there's a problem. But we have the similar situation that we've been saying for years. Islam promotes terrorism and jihad and so on. Everyone calls us liars, Islamophobes, bigots, and now all of a sudden people are finding out There are holes in the narrative that Islam's this religion of peace and tolerance. So good times.
The really great part of this, David, that I've enjoyed immensely is that it's the same people.
Yeah.
That for years, these guys have tried to have wanted to debate me. And of course, as you know, we debated the Shiite imams in Philadelphia, was it? And and I've debated many imams in the past, Mustafa Zayed, and didn't we? We also debated Anjem Chowdhury and Omar Bakri. And Chowdhury and Bakri were a little different because they were honest. But every other imam that I've ever debated, I debated the clock boy, the hoaxer with the clock bomb in Texas. I debated his father.
Oh, I thought you were about to say. I thought you were about to say you debated clock boy. I was like, what?
No,
how did I miss this?
But the thing is, all of them are dedicated to the proposition that Islam is a religion of peace, and that I've been misrepresenting it all these years, and that all of us have been misrepresenting it all these years. And the same people now, the exact individuals who have been claiming this all this time, are now acknowledging that none of this is true, and what we've been saying has been true all along. I mean, Ali Dawah, he actually refused. Some people were saying, why don't you debate Ali Dawah? You're a coward unless you debate Ali Dawah. So I said, okay, sure, which, of course, I'm happy to debate him, debate any of these guys. And he declined. And he said I was too old for him to debate. And he was going to go easy on the old guy. And he's the one.
Too old. Sounds like Muhammad. She's too old.
So but now we know, since he's come out for the death penalty for apostasy, that he had nothing to debate with me. We say that we understand Islam in exactly the same way.
He would have just sat there nodding in agreement. Amen, Brother Robert. Amen, Brother Robert. Preach it, Brother Robert. Oh my goodness, finally the kuffar are telling the truth about Islam.
Yeah, so it's extraordinarily entertaining. It's like an incredible vindication of everything that we've been saying all these years, combined with the dissolution, this extraordinary gaslighting that they've been doing before the world for decades, is now becoming exposed.
Yeah, and so these are awesome times. You cannot dream of these times, and really, basically a couple of years ago is where I really noticed what was happening. But I don't remember the exact year, somewhere in the 2006 to 2008 range, somewhere in there, I started realizing that the people that Muslims were putting forward as their champions and debaters weren't really good reflections of the true nature of Islam. So they're putting forward, Shabir Ali and these sort of, really gentlemanly representatives and so on. And I'm thinking, I read about Islam and it's more this chest thumping, oh, we strong, strong, we crush you, we kill you, right? And it's like, these guys are not real, very good representatives of Islam. I understand why Muslims would want to put them forward, but didn't seem like they were accurate reflections of Islam. And so, I started debating lots of younger Muslims, but no one really stood out. They were all telling us, Islam's a religion of peace. Oh, no, Islam doesn't call for the killing of apostates. It's only apostates if they go and join a foreign army and then come back and attack us. I got that a lot. And then, all of a sudden, 2018, Mohammed Hijab comes out, and it's this chest and Ali Dawah, and I'm like, and I realized, wow, if these guys become the public faces of Islam, then people will start to realize what Islam teaches. So it's not, hey,
here we are.
Yeah, and so it's not.
But it's not even them, Dave. It's not even only them.
Yeah.
Because I myself had an experience with another one. What the heck is his name? The Andalusia guy, Asadullah. And he wanted to debate me in front of an MSA at a university, but then he didn't want to help cover any of the security costs, and so now that has become a big deal whenever he comes up on Twitter. All his followers come along and say, "You're a coward and you wanted money," and so on and so on. And I have repeatedly said, I will debate you in a neutral setting with a neutral moderator at my own expense. But this is not good enough because, and this is what I've realized from this whole incident actually, and some others, that the whole point of debating for these guys, for Ali Dawah, for Mohammed Hijab, and for Asadullah, and probably for other ones, the whole point of it is to humiliate the kuffar. The whole point of the debate is not to illuminate the truth, not to show that Islam is a religion of peace, not to prove that we are wrong in what we say about the Quran and Muhammad, but to have an opportunity to call us names and insult us for a couple of hours. And that is what their followers count as a debate victory. Yep. Because, of course, this is in line with Islam, that you have to humiliate the infidels. And that's really what this is all about. It's just an attempt to humiliate more infidels.
Yeah, so you're right. They want to. This goes back to just they want to thump their chest and me strong, me put him down, and so on. And the non-Muslim debaters usually have better etiquette. And here's what's interesting is they will also, the Hijab did this, right? The Muslim side made me agree that I would not engage in any personal attacks, not go off topic, that I would be friendly the entire time, that I would. So they made me agree to all these things. And then Hijab agreed to them all too, but he broke them because they don't believe they have to actually honor their agreements with people like us. And so I keep my agreement, he doesn't. But you and I had the exact same thing with that imam in Philadelphia or wherever we were, where there was this long list of things that we had to agree to. You couldn't talk about political events. You couldn't talk about this. You couldn't talk about that. And then they arranged the debate so where they spoke for the last 10 minutes. Then he went point by point and broke every single thing he had agreed to, did massive personal attacks against you when there were supposedly no personal attacks. And then when they were finished, they just said, "Oh, we're going to speak for an extra couple minutes." And then they went longer and everything. And it's like, this has been going on for years. I would say between a quarter and a third of the debates that I've entered into were the Muslim participants blatantly just completely went against and violated everything they made me agree to in order to enter into the debate. And so now I've never experienced this with atheists. I've debated a number of atheists. I've never had that problem. I've debated other people. I've never had that problem with anyone. Just this particular group that doesn't believe they have to honor agreements. And so it's a situation where, hey, let's debate. Okay, let's debate. Well, here are the rules you have to agree to. I'm not agreeing to those rules. Ah, he's a coward. He's backing down from us. Ah, we strong. Ah! And it's like you said, they go about this just because let's get this guy in a situation where he's going to stick to his agreement and he's going to be nice, or he's going to follow the agreement, and we just get to heap abuse on him, which I wouldn't care. If you want to heap abuse on me for 2 hours, just call it a roast. I'll go and sit in the chair. I'll sit in the chair and you can roast me. I don't care. I'm not made of glass. Wow.
Yeah, that's fine, but we just should understand that that's what it's about. Yeah. That if they're going to pretend that this is some sort of a dispassionate foray in illuminating the truth, then they should keep to the agreements that you describe, and they should behave in a more honorable fashion. But of course, here we come up to one of the core differences between the Christian understanding of how to behave in the world and the Islamic one. And when you have a holy book that tells you Muhammad is the apostle of Allah, those who follow him are ruthless to unbelievers, merciful to one another, that's Quran 48:29, folks, then you're going to be a jerk. And you're going to think that you are being blessed by Allah because you are obeying his command in being a jerk. And I see it over and over.
Yeah. And my goodness, I don't know why this Mohammed Mo here keeps saying this. Mohammed Mo, he says, why don't you guys hold a two-way debate against Fareed? Mohammed Mo, I don't know if you've been watching these live streams. We've been inviting all of these guys night after night after night to join us live to defend their prophet. We've invited Mohammed Hijab, Adnan Rashid, Shabir Ali, Yasser Qadi, Fareed. Fareed's already refused. Zakir Naik's refused. These guys are refusing. So I don't know what sort of fantasy world you live in. You run from them. They strong. You weak. We're inviting them every night. They don't show up. right? Ehtisham Ghulam,
Par for the course.
yeah, Ehtisham Ghulam showed up. He agreed. He came on. And Dr. Shuaib Syed came on. We did a 6-part series with Dr. Shuaib Syed. I even gave him an hour, 20 minutes uninterrupted because he asked for a long period interrupted. Uninterrupted. He spent like 95% of it attacking the Bible. Who's running here? Who's running? I don't know. But I know you guys live in fantasy land if you think, well, we so strong, they are running. You, go to Mohammed Hijab, go to Fareed, go to Ijaz, tell them they're welcome. They're welcome to come on here. I don't know what else I can say. All right. Should we go ahead and check out these Ali Dawah clips for people who don't know what we're talking about?
Let's go.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. So, again, just to remind everyone, Robert, for years, when we've been telling people that in Islam, the penalty for apostasy is death, what has the response been from Westerners and from Muslims in the West?
You are a racist, bigoted, Islamophobic extremist. You are validating the misunderstanding and misinterpretation of Islam that is fostered by Al-Qaeda and ISIS, and thereby aiding Al-Qaeda and ISIS. You are disrespecting the vast majority of peaceful, moderate Muslims who believe in peaceful coexistence, and you are gravely harming the chances of peace and harmony between cultures and religions in the world today.
Something along those lines, indeed. So that's why it's just amazing. And so again, the parallel here, ladies and gentlemen, is for years Muslims said perfect preservation right down to the letter, and all of a sudden they start blurting out, nope, there are all kinds of differences and there are holes in the narrative, and yeah. And then, wow, finally you're admitting it. And likewise, for years Muslims have been saying, no, we would never, everyone has freedom in Islam, free to do whatever you want. Islam produced the golden age of interfaith harmony and tolerance, blah, 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 blah.
There's no compulsion in religion.
No compulsion. It's right there in the Quran, as long as you ignore everything else about the Quran and ignore the entire context and ignore 14 centuries of Muslim interpretation. It's so clear. And then finally, we have someone to vindicate us. Finally, we have an Ali Dawah to come along and say, guys, David Wood and Robert Spencer were entirely correct all along. Here we go.
This is a part of our religion. There's a reason to it. Yeah? There's a reason why there's a capital punishment. Because people like you, little weaklings who leave their religion and cause corruption in the land by spreading it, the capital punishment in Islamic law would be applied to you. We have no doubt, and we're proud of that. Yeah? Capital punish will be applied in an Islamic state. Yeah? Not individuals going and doing it themselves like idiots. Yeah? No. Under an emir, it is done, yes. And we, you know what, we'll be watching.
I wanted to pause it there. We'll be watching. How would now this kind this is kind of another issue that I've noticed, namely that these guys are tossing around these threats and intimidation like they still think this could actually work, like we could actually intimidate these guys into doing what we want, when in reality, the point I made last night was anyone who can be intimidated in that way is already gone out of any sort of counter-jihad movement or anything like that. The people who are left cannot be pushed around like that, right? The apostate prophet.
Intimidation is their primary tactic. Mm-hmm. Intimidation is absolutely the fundamental way that they operate, because they'll tell you, you are all wrong about Islam, and they expect you to back off then and say, oh, I'm so sorry, I got it wrong. Tell me how it is right. Or if you say that you've got the Quran here, you've got the Sunnah, you've got various evidences, of course, then you're misreading them. And so it's intimidation again. You're misunderstanding the texts. Do you speak Arabic fluently, classical 7th century Arabic, and so on and so on and so on. I mean, of course, you know all these arguments that are thrown out at us again and again and again. All of them have the basis of intimidation. They are all designed to knock us back, put us on the defensive, and make us think that our arguments are not sound, even though they don't actually constitute any genuine refutation of those arguments. And then if you don't even want to discuss it, don't care to discuss it, you're a coward who is avoiding their debate and trying to conceal the truth as a true kuffar would. And that's more intimidation. It says you're either a coward or you're a liar or you're evil. And these are the only choices that are offered. They never have ever approached me, and I'm sure that they never have approached you in a good faith, mutually respectful manner, and discussed things, like you said, with the atheists in a dispassionate way that was just designed to make it clear which point of view had more of, encapsulated more of the truth. Because that's not what this is about. It's all about intimidation from beginning to end.
Yeah, and I think I think the situation is that they kind of only have a handful of tricks, right? They only have a handful of tools, right? You can go out and you can violently subjugate an area and force it to obey you. You've got deception. You got trickery, you know, you can trick people into believing certain things and so on. And you have just harassment and intimidation. And so in a Muslim country, it's here's what you need to do. And if you don't do it, we'll chop your head off or at least throw you in prison or something like that. But in the West, where that's not going to work, it's well, we'll just try to intimidate you, right? We'll heap abuse on you.
Well, it's the same thing in a certain sense. Here's what you have to do, or else we will blacken your reputation and smear you in every way that we possibly can. And if you act up about it, if you protest, then we'll just do it all the more. And so it's really just the same kind of thing that happens in the Sharia states, only within the parameters of what is legally possible in the West. It's all intimidation.
Yeah, and it's the situation that we have recently with Mohammed Hijab basically harassing people's wives, right? So he goes after the apostate prophet's wife. He goes after Abdullah Samir's wife. He goes after Abdullah Gondal's wife. He's targeting all the wives and harassing them and saying really nasty things, using imagery of like torture and rape and things like that when he's talking about them. It seems that because they only have one method, and just to be clear, everyone, I'm not talking about all Muslims. I'm talking about the people like Mohammed Hijab and those who follow him and so on, and those who use the same approach. The people who are trying to get their way in the West right now, trying to force their positions on everyone else. It's like they only have one method, and that is intimidation. And if it's not working, then they think, well, we need more intimidation, right? We need to dial it up. Okay, I dialed it up to 5. That's not working. Let me dial it up to 8. Oh, that's not working. Let me dial it up to 10. And so, gosh, I've been trying to harass these guys into shutting their mouths about Muhammad, and they're not doing it. They still just keep talking about Muhammad. Let me go after their wives. Then they'll learn, not realizing, again, anyone who could be pushed around like that is already gone. Right? The people who are still here, you could, I really believe you could saw Robert Spencer's head off. He's not backing down. I believe you could saw.
They've tried to kill me twice already, David.
I believe you could saw Pamela Geller's head off and my head off. And we're not backing down. That's just the sort of people. It's just the situation you've created. Guys have already weeded out the people who can be pushed around, manipulated,
but they don't have any other tool in their box, so they just keep dialing it up. Nothing else they can do.
Keep dialing. Let's go ahead and finish that clip from Ali Dawah, because so at the first part there, he admitted and acknowledged, hey, you guys would die, and we're proud of that. He says in the clip,
and we'll be watching.
Yeah, we'll be watching. We're watching you, and we're building our Islamic community bigger and bigger with the goal of establishing an Islamic state. And once we have the Islamic state, you are dead. We're watching you. We can't kill you right now, but we're watching you, and we're eventually going to kill you. And I think the apostate prophet made an excellent point in his video on this. He said, if I said that, hey, in an ideal world, I would go around, killing all these Muslims and so on, what would the reaction be? It wouldn't be allowed. It wouldn't be tolerated. He would be blasted from all sides. And yet here's Ali Dawah saying, oh, if we really get our way, you guys are all dead. You're all dead. And it's fine. It's fine with everyone. Interesting stuff. All right, let's go ahead and finish this Ali Dawah clip here.
Because if you're going to cause corruption in the land, that's going to cause more damage to the society as a whole, because the Sharia didn't come to protect an individual's right. Hey, can I drink alcohol? Yeah, sure. Drink alcohol, run someone over, kill them, set all this kind of chaos. No, Islam says the right of the community is greater than you individual wanting your right to freedom, which is BS. Absolutely BS, yeah? Don't get me started. So it just backfires. Right of the community is greater than you individual wanting your right to freedom, which is BS. Absolutely.
I keep going back to this, guys, because
of the community
pay attention
is
to
greater than you individual wanting your right to freedom, which is BS.
Your
Absolutely
right
BS,
to freedom.
Yeah? Don't get me started. So it just backfired on you.
That's right. You have to be the slave of Allah.
He just said it. I mean, Robert.
Yeah.
For the past couple of decades, when we've gone around saying, actually, in Islam, there isn't much respect for your rights as an individual, what has the response been?
Here again, you're a racist, bigoted Islamophobe. You're validating the extremists. You are silencing moderate voices. It's all it's just so bitterly ironic, especially in light of the fact that this guy is indeed an Islamic apologist. What exactly does he debate with non-Muslims about? If he believes that there should be the death penalty for apostates and more. Note in that last clip, he said corruption in the land, which of course is quoted from chapter 5, verse 33 of the Quran, which mandates that those who wage war against Allah and his messenger should be killed or crucified or have their hands and feet cut off on opposite sides. So he's obviously in favor of all that. It's in the Quran. And this is somebody who is clear about what he believes. So what does he say to his debate opponents? Yeah, we want to enslave you. We want to kill. We want to maim you. It's extraordinary, really. The whole project, the whole enterprise of these Islamic debaters has now been destroyed by some of the most prominent Islamic debaters themselves.
Yeah, so my goodness, these guys are really making our jobs much easier, because if we spend years telling people, nope, the Quran hasn't been perfectly preserved, it's actually a false claim, they don't believe us. We must be bigots. But then Muslim scholars themselves start blurting it out, and then everyone catches on really quick. And so now we've got the same thing here. We spend years telling people, quoting Islam's most trusted sources, and then hearing back, that's false because I have a Muslim friend in school and she doesn't believe that. Therefore, that's not what Islam teaches. Because as everyone knows, my 18-year-old Muslim college student friend is an authoritative source on Islamic doctrine and practice. She couldn't be wrong. And
well, she's a Muslim and you're not, so she must know.
Yeah. And so, but now we've got Muslims coming out right out and saying it. And I'm sure he would say the same. He was saying that about apostates. I'm sure he would say the same thing about critics, that critics have to be killed because that's what Muhammad ordered.
Certainly. It's Sharia. Absolutely.
It is, gosh, these are good times. Everything's coming out. Everything is for you atheists who are watching. For all you atheists who are watching, right? If you tell me that the universe formed on its own, that's one thing. If you tell me that life formed on its own, that's one thing. If you tell me that human consciousness formed by a natural process, that's one thing. But how can you not recognize that the Almighty has delivered these men into our hands? How can you not? How can you not recognize that? I've never seen anything implode like this, like Islam, over these past couple months. All right, I'll probably be coming back to that. All right, should we jump into some Mohammed Hijab?
Yeah, you got his tweets there.
Yeah, we've got his tweets. I've actually got his Twitter page. People are asking, "Did you see Mohammed Hijab's video?" No, didn't. I don't follow Mohammed Hijab. I only pulled it up here because I pulled up his Twitter page yesterday because of the things that were going on, and I pulled up his Twitter page today. I do not know what is on here. I have some screenshots of some of his earlier posts, but I could see as I was scrolling down to get the screenshots of the stuff we covered yesterday, because I wanted pictures, because I didn't want to have to scroll way down if they're from a couple days ago. I saw that a bunch of pictures of myself, and so I know he's talking about me.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Yeah. So I didn't know he made any videos. As I was scrolling, I saw some pictures, but
no, those I haven't seen, but I did see some of the tweets that are well worth remarking on. I think you have them there. The ones about how he doesn't insult anybody but Islamophobes, whereas you eater of the Quran, you have insulted his religion itself, whereas he would be too fastidious, too polite, too well-mannered to insult Christianity.
Yeah, and someone's saying Ali Dawah made a video about me. Yeah, I haven't seen that either, but I saw that he had made a video. So, guys, what we're going to see is this is kind of a hilarious situation, because my main point yesterday, if you recall, was, do you guys really want to start an insult battle? You guys are the most easily offended people in the history of humanity. You throw a tantrum over any perceived criticism. Do you really want to dial up the insult fest? Because I'm pretty sure I can do it better than you. And I spend 6 seconds chewing on a piece of the Quran. Everyone loses their mind. Guys, that's the point. You're spending day after day after day talking about people's wives, saying the most offensive things you can possibly say about them. I grab a piece of the Quran and you guys lose it. You guys lose it. Do you really want to start this? Do you really want to go this route?
It's a very important point, really. There's really so much you can say about this. But one of the main things is that he's making this distinction. He's claiming that he respects Christianity and other religions, and that you do not in turn respect Islam. So really the onus is on you. He turns out to be the more courteous individual. In the first place, that's what Hijab said, right? It's in one of those tweets.
Hey,
and
let's see. Let me see if I can get. All right, here we have his Twitter page up on the screen here. Let's scroll down. So Hijab. I'm trying to find the one you're referring to. Mohammed Hijab eating the Quran like I ate him for intellectual breakfast. I should say like him eating the Quran like I ate him for intellectual breakfast. November 2018. I proved to him and to all the Muslims that Allah prays for Muhammad, not to Muhammad. Allahu Akbar. So that's Hijab. Let's see. You're referring to there's actually a funny graphic right there of us that's kind of bobbing our heads. Let's see.
Yes, I saw that.
Okay, we can read some of these in a few minutes. I'm looking for what you're talking about.
Yeah, because there's a bunch of things to say about it.
Gosh,
one of them is
this guy obsessed much?
Yeah, he's got a lot.
Wait. Wow, this got to be the end. Oh my goodness!
Individuals like Cosmic Skeptic and William Lane Craig associate themselves with people who eat the Quran and laugh on to disrespect the Muslim community. In the case of Cosmic Skeptic, his Twitter support for Apis is evident, while Craig makes collabs with David Wood. The difference between us and you is this: we disrespect Islamophobes like you, who disrespect our community. You disrespect our religion and our community. Quite frankly, I have never and would never gratuitously insult any sacred symbol in any religion, even though I can legally. Now, in the first place...
Wait a minute, where is that? That seems
seems
longer.
Just on his Twitter, I just read it. It's 13 hours ago, says here. I don't know what to tell you. It's there with the tripartite picture of the
Okay. Yeah. It's broken into two separate tweets there. Yeah, I have both of those up on the screen. Yeah. So let's see. Individuals like Cosmic Skeptic and William Lane. By the way, this is their other strategy, right? This is hilarious. Their other strategy is to, well, do you condemn him?
Yes.
He said this. Do you all condemn him? Not realizing, guys, Hijab. Do you think that's going to work? Because you used to try that with James White, right? Like,
it's an old tried and tested tactic. It's just these guys have been working from the same playbook for years and years and years. Mm-hmm. I think it was 2009 or 10. I was talking with Kaner Dagli, this professor. He was one of the editors of the Study Quran. That hadn't been written yet, but he's a professor at I think Holy Cross College, a Catholic college, which has no excuse employing a guy like this. But anyway, he's writing me in this belligerent manner and asking me, "Do you condemn Pamela Geller for saying this and that?" And I said, "Why don't you talk to her about it?" I have total respect for her, but it has nothing to do with me. But this is the way that it's a form of the divide and conquer tactic. And in any case, it was actually the same thing when we were both banned from entering Britain for saying that Islam teaches violence and so on, saying truths that they didn't want known.
Hey, Ali Dawah was allowed there.
Yeah, of course. And I went on a BBC show with this imam and this fellow from Hope Not Hate, the leftist group that had gotten us banned. And they said, "Well, what do you think is so wrong with Spencer?" And he starts quoting all these other people with whom I am associated. Well, sorry, that's not the problem here. But in any case, the thing about this, what hijab is doing besides that as well, is he's once again working from the model of Muhammad. And this also is one of these wonderful things that has happened over the last few weeks, that just when this actually started, somebody was saying, that they've been disappointing some of their followers. And I've seen on Twitter some followers of Mohammed Hijab and Ali Dawah saying the way they're behaving, they're validating what the Islamophobes like Spencer say, and they are bringing disrepute. Yeah, and they're bringing disrepute upon our community. And I actually answered one of those and said, look, he's just following Muhammad's example. And Muhammad, of course, in a famous hadith says, when I forget what he says, that you're supposed to do, in what occasion you're supposed to do this, but in some certain circumstances, you may remember, you're supposed to say, go to these guys and say, bite your father's penis and do not use a euphemism. And
just so everyone knows, that is what Muhammad was saying is, if anyone brags about his descent, right? So he's bragging, I came from the great so-and-so, I've descended from the great so-and-so. He said, tell him, go bite his father's penis and don't use a euphemism. And so, yeah.
So I quote this, and immediately this guy comes along, some guy I don't know, and he says, see, you're ignorant, you're evil, you're stupid. This is what it really means. And he gives me this.
There's always the this is what it really means. Yes, it says beat your wives into submission, but this is what it really means. Tempt them with a toothbrush.
Kill them wherever you find them. But it really, properly understood in the original Arabic, it means give them a hug.
Yep.
And this means supposedly remember your humble origins from which you came, something like that. And I think, well, then why didn't Muhammad just say that? But anyway, okay, so that's what it really means. And nobody who takes it literally is anything but a hateful, bigoted, ignorant Islamophobe. And then, within hours, I see Mohammed Hijab justifying his own behavior by quoting very similar hadiths about Abu Bakr using foul language against his enemies. And this is quoted approvingly and saying, see, we're supposed to show disrespect. We're supposed to humiliate the infidels. And so that is in the first place what's behind what Mohammed Hijab is saying here. But it's also noteworthy that, let me go to it here just a second, sorry for the bright light, that he says he would never gratuitously insult any religious symbol, because Islam itself, in its core doctrines, nobody knows this, everybody's used to it, nobody thinks about it, because Christians don't go around screaming at people and killing them if they're insulted. But by denying the divinity of Christ, denying the resurrection, denying the salvation, these things are all insulting to Christianity. By saying that the Bible is corrupted, these are built-in insults to the Christian faith that virtually every pious, believing, knowledgeable Muslim assumes and takes for granted and repeats. And that's okay with the whole world. And I'm not counseling anything else. I don't believe anybody should be harmed for insults. But at the same time, Muslims do not behave that way themselves. And there was a news item a few years back. These Ugandan Christians were preaching, and Muslims complained and said, "You have insulted our religion by saying Jesus is the Son of God," and they threatened to kill them. Mm-hmm. Well, doesn't go both ways, of course, as it never does.
Quick question, Robert. So, Hijab quoted approvingly. I'm assuming it's the quote from Abu Bakr, where
yes,
because you said Abu Bakr, and the famous one is where he was talking to a pagan, and he said, "Guys, if you have kids in the room and you want to close their ears, you have about 3 seconds to do so." He said, "Go suck a lot's clitoris."
That's
right?
The one he quoted.
Yeah. So this is go perform oral sex on your goddess, right? Now, just imagine us saying to Muslims, "Go suck Allah's penis," and so on. They'd be like, "Oh, it's the end of the world. How dare you say these things about us?" But tell me, Robert, doesn't this sound like he's insulting a religious symbol here? Something that this guy has respect for and reverence?
Exactly. There's no intellectual consistency here. There never is. Go ahead.
Now, as someone who likes to point out how Muslims are constantly destroying their own religion, when Muhammad conquered Mecca, the Kaaba, of course, was surrounded by 360 religious symbols that were very dear to the pagans. So obviously, someone who would never insult someone's religious symbols, Muhammad must have been very, very delicate with those and respecting of the feelings of the pagan of Mecca. Is that what he did?
He smashed them.
He smashed them. Wait a minute. Whoa. So wait, hold on. You're telling me, Robert Spencer, that when Muhammad encountered other people's religious symbols, he smashed them to pieces. He didn't care what they thought. He didn't care what they felt. He didn't care about their feelings at all. He said, "These are your religious symbols. I will smash them to pieces, and I don't care." That's what he said?
Yep.
So Muslims, according to your prophet, I could take your religious symbol that hijab is freaking out about. I can just do this, right? According to your prophet, right? I can do that. Is that true? Notice, there's no concept of consistency here. I would never do what my prophet did. If anyone,
you see the video from Bahrain the other day?
1 second here, because they're going to want this pic for the tweet, right? Here you go, Hijab. Here's your next tweet. I don't even know what chapter that was. Go ahead, Robert.
But I think that it's very important to point out that is the Abdullah Yusuf Ali translation with the Arabic on the page.
It has the Arabic on the page.
You're not just eating a translation. Nope. You are eating the real thing.
That is it's parallel Arabic and English there. So that is the Arabic.
But anyway, did you see the video from Bahrain just a couple of days ago? A couple of niqabis, women wearing niqab, everything covered but their eyes, and they're in a store. And in the store are all these statues of Ganesh, the Hindu god, the elephant god. And they're taking them one by one and smashing them on the ground. Now, why did they think that was a good and meritorious act to do? That's what Muhammad did.
Yeah.
And so they're imitating their prophet. And not only did that happen, but they have been predictably hailed as heroes all around the Islamic world, all over Islamic social media. They've been praised for doing this. And so it would be interesting to ask Mohammed Hijab, do you approve of the smashing of the Ganesh idols in Bahrain the other day?
Mm-hmm.
Because he can't say he doesn't approve of it. That would be going against Muhammad.
No, this is fun because, I mean, just based on his tweet that you brought up, I mean, he just condemned his own prophet, right? I'm more in line now, and they don't get it.
So Mohammed Hijab has committed blasphemy, and deserves death according to Sharia.
Check this out. So the comment here, bruh, David Wood talking about disrespecting other religions. He is the epitome of disrespect. How could you do that to somebody's holy book if you supposedly have the truth? Are you not understanding anything here? I'm not complaining about disrespect. Hijab is. I bring up disrespecting people. As a matter of fact, let's go back to let's check out this tweet again. Let me get this tweet back up. But so he says, individuals like Cosmic Skeptic and William Lane Craig associate themselves with people who eat the Quran and laugh on to disrespect the Muslim community. Hint, hint. Cosmic Skeptic and William Lane Craig.
How many of you are there?
Cosmic Skeptic and William Lane Craig, could you publicly condemn this man? Because that will stop him. That worked so well when we got James White to condemn him. He'll definitely back down now because these guys back down. And so in the case of Cosmic Skeptic, his Twitter support for APIS is evident, whilst Craig makes collabs with David Wood. You know why people collab with me? Because people love me. All right, so that's not the one I was looking for, the one below it. The difference between us and you is this. We disrespect Islamophobes like you. Now, notice what he just said. We disrespect Islamophobes. In other words, we disrespect people, human beings. Yeah. You disrespect...
That's the humiliation, the intimidation.
You disrespect our religion and ideology and our community. How do I disrespect your community, Hijab? By disrespecting your religion, right? So at the end of the day, we're criticizing an ideology which has no feelings, which has no rights, which calls for our violent subjugation, and as such is completely open to criticism. You're saying we attack people. We attack people. And he says, quite frankly, I have never and would never gratuitously insult any sacred symbol in any religion, even though I can legally. Right. So gratuitously, that wasn't gratuitous. There's a point to what I was doing. Right. And I'm making a point to you that this is not a direction you want to go. And now you've got your prophet. He could have carried the idols out of Mecca, sent them on their way with anyone who wanted to leave. He could have done that. Instead, he smashed them to pieces. He insulted them. He insulted them. He insulted and degraded them. And you just condemned your own prophet. Congratulations, Mohammed Hijab. You're an apostate now. Need forgiveness. You can call yourself the apostate Hijab.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's.
If he goes on trial for blasphemy,
and
is executed, we'll be watching.
Yeah. Hey, Hijab, why don't you go to Pakistan and say, I condemn Muhammad for gratuitously insulting and smashing the idols of Mecca. Go ahead and tell him that. So let's just scroll through these since he made a ton. Eating the Quran like I ate him for intellectual breakfast, November 2018. In the English-speaking world of apologetics, it seems the Muslim intellectual threat is too potent.
Yes. It's frightening.
This guy's going around, and your wife this, and your wife that. She will be pinned to the wall and raped with the truth, blah blah blah, and defiled. And we say this is disgusting, dude. And his response is, aha! He can't handle our intellectual threat.
That's right.
This dude is nuts, man. We have apostates, atheists, and Christian anti-Muslim apologists all forming a major coalition. Hijab, why is that? Why do you see people uniting? You're uniting everyone against you because everyone looks at you and says, one, we do not want to be controlled by that ideology, right? Atheists, Hindus, Christians, agnostics, apostates, we're all pretty comfortable living around each other. And then there's you. No, you must all be subjugated. We must kill all the apostates once we rise to power. Be strong. And then you take it to another level and, hey, unlike all the rest of you, I go after your wives. I go after your families. Me strong. Me strong. Right? And we're looking at that and going, whoa, this guy's in a different category. You're the one who's doing it, dude. You're making this religion implode from within. Wow.
Well, that's another thing, David. Where does he get this idea? What does Sharia say about the wives of the infidel warriors? That if they're captured, they can be made into sex slaves, their marriage is immediately annulled. This is based on the Quran, the captives of the right hand, the spoils of war. So he's actually just acting in anticipation of his final victory, in which he can use the trophy. He can use the wives of his opponents as his trophies of victory.
And speaking of the anticipated victory, I think that's why you're having part of this meltdown. Part of it is caused by, you know, people flipping out on them and so on. But I think whereas the older generation of Muslim apologists recognizes that they still need to be very careful in how they proceed, I think the younger generation thinks, I mean, gosh, we've already won. We've already subjugated these people. I mean, gosh, if we spent, you know, if we spent decades going through the streets, taking little girls, drugging them, raping them, and these people wouldn't stand against us, they're done. This whole civilization is done. If we can say whatever we want, if we can announce on YouTube, we're going to kill these apostates, and they just let it happen, and they will not speak out against it, these people are done. We can get away with everything. So I think these younger generation, like Mohammed Hijab and Ali Dawah and these guys, they think they can just do whatever they want now. They can go after their wives. They can go after their wives, go after their families, anything. They're not going to stand up, not realizing, dude, people are coming after you now. What's hilarious is that eating the Quran yesterday. That was just off the cuff improv. Hey, do you want to go this route? Hijab, do you have any idea what would happen if I actually planned? If I actually sat around planning and plotting how I can disgrace and defile your book in public and get other people to do it and build a website around it? I'm telling you, you do not want to go this route. I don't want to go this route. If you continue on this route and do not apologize, I am going to go on this route. And the difference is I am massively better at this than you. I'm massively better than you could ever dream of being. You get all your fans together to conspire how to insult others and heap abuse on whatever it is you want to go after. You will never compare to right here. You can't do it. So get that through your head. I'm really hoping I wake up one of these mornings and I get a message, hey, Hijab deleted all these tweets and he apologized to the apostate prophet's wife and to Abdullah Samir's wife and so on. Hoping I see that. If I don't, dude, there is no limit to how much I can dial things up. So, what are your thoughts, Robert?
Well, you know, another thing that occurred to me is that they are moving from the first stage to the second stage of jihad as delineated in the Quran. That, you know, as we have said for many years, and we're called racists and Islamophobes for saying so, there are 3 stages of development of the concept of jihad in the Quran. And this, of course, is not our idea. This is something that was taught as early as the 8th century by Ibn Ishaq, Muhammad's first biographer, who explained that first you have the Meccan period in which Muhammad preaches tolerance. It is not tolerance of the non-Muslim. It is tolerance from the non-Muslim. What he's preaching is leave the Muslim community alone. And then the peaceful parts give way to the first Medinan period, which is defensive jihad, where for the first time you fight against those who fight against you. And then, of course, the third stage is offensive jihad, fight them until religion is all for Allah. Now, chapter 839. The thing about this is that I think that these guys, emboldened by all the victories, and they have had so many victories, most of the world is kowtowing before them. Most of the Western intelligentsia, the political elites, the media elites, most everyone in the West, if they say jump, then the people in the West say how high. If they say you cannot draw Muhammad, they say, oh, okay, sorry, we won't exercise our freedom of speech. We will bow to your violent intimidation and never draw Muhammad again. And we will smear and demonize anybody who dares to get out of line. They have seen this all these years. And you and me, David, and a few others, we're the outliers. Like you said, we're the ones who wouldn't cut and run. But the thing is that it's easy to see that they are emboldened by their victory and think, now we don't have to preach tolerance anymore. We don't have to preach Islam as a religion of peace anymore. We can be much more vocal and explicit about making war against the unbelievers, about killing, about raping, about all the things that are in our holy books. Because, of course, now they're couching them, because they're at the beginning of this, in the context of defense. That you insulted Islam, therefore he can say all these terrible things. These other guys, these apostates, they insulted Allah, they insulted Muhammad, they insulted the Quran, so we can talk about raping their wives. And so they are emboldened now by their victories to think they can escalate their jihad to the next level. But at the same time, the whole thing is falling apart. Just as they're accelerating, the wheels are falling off. And so it's a wonderful thing to see.
Yeah, so basically right now there's all these things that we've talked about that they kind of only have a couple of tools, right? Deception and aggression.
Intimidation,
and, yeah, just really coming at people, harassing them and so on. And they've been doing it in a kind of more laid back way, right? Where you spoke out, they would attribute to racism and so on. Whereas now it's just like harassing people's families and things like that. And so they're taking it to another level, not realizing, guys, maybe you're not as far along as you think you are.
Yes.
Right? And
yes.
And maybe people aren't going to back down as quickly as you think they will. And so not looking good for these guys. Let me bring up this tweet again. David Wood eating the Quran to try and disrespect it, while Apis laughs on as if he has achieved something. I did. I totally did something. I made you lose your mind after you spent I don't know, days or weeks attacking people's wives and so on like that. It took me all of, what was it, 6-8 seconds or something like that to send you into a frenzy, and I haven't even gotten started. And check this out. This is the same man William Lane Craig made a collaboration with. Let us see if William Lane Craig or other Christians want to associate themselves with that. Here again, he has no idea how stupid he's being. Guys, have you noticed over the past couple months that I've been putting way more videos out? Have you noticed I've been posting almost every day, if not every day, and sometimes 2 or 3 times a day, and putting out 1 or 2 videos and doing a live stream? Has everyone noticed that? Has everyone been noticing? You know what happened? Coronavirus happened, and traveling and collaborating and speaking engagements and conferences were canceled. These things were canceled, right? And I actually don't really like going to a bunch of events because it messes up my video production, and that's where my heart is. I like putting out videos. I like doing some live streams. So think about this. Everyone, stop collaborating with David Wood. Stop having him come out. Don't invite him to your events. This will crush him. It's just like, are you insane, dude? Right? And you know, Robert, this is a true story. Back when I started making videos about Islam and so on, there was a team of like 15. There was like a team. I mean, I can't give a specific number, but I know it was somewhere around 15 people who would, when I announced, hey, I'm going to speak somewhere, there would like, I would show up and they say, hey, we had 15 people call and complain that we were having you come and speak. And so over time, I just thought, well, this can't continue. I'll just focus on videos. So what they're most upset at me about is all the videos I put out. But part of the reason I put out so many videos was that they were blocking me from speaking. And now Hijab's brilliant idea. Let's make sure David is not invited anywhere and he just stays at home cranking out 3-4 videos a day. Ha ha! The victory of Al-Islam. These guys are nuts. It's they're the worst. They're the worst at strategy in the entire history of humanity.
Here again, it's just the one tool. He just can. He's trying to intimidate you. If you can't be intimidated by all his usual arguments about oh, you're mistranslating or you're lying or this, then he starts the insults. If you can't be insulted, he'll start with the wife. If that doesn't make you stop, then he goes to William Lane Craig and other people he thinks that you respect, and I'm sure that you do. But the point is that he's trying to, it's all just another kind of intimidation, that he's trying to frighten you into stopping what you're doing.
Yeah, and
that's all they ever do.
Really, really dumb. I mean, notice what he's complaining about right now. I can't believe it. He's disgraceful. Why did I do it? If he wanted, notice, how do I get this man to stop? Quit attacking people's wives, right? This is on you. This is on you, Hijab, right? It's let me put pressure on him and let me try to get other people to condemn him. This will stop him. Everything hijab does to stop people from doing something backfires and makes them do it more. He doesn't realize it's his horrible behavior, his lying, his threats, his attempts at intimidation. That's what's causing all this stuff. And gosh, quit being the biggest jerk I've encountered in my entire life. Quit being a liar.
It's the whole Islamophobia thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's international commissions about Islamophobia. There are billions of dollars being spent to stamp out Islamophobia. Mm-hmm. If Muslims would stop blowing themselves up while screaming Allahu Akbar, there would be no Islamophobia. But mm-hmm. because there's a continuous stream of violent acts committed by pious Muslims invoking the Quran to justify what they're doing, people don't like Islam very much. Mm-hmm. But then that's our fault, and it's because of our racism and bigotry, and we have to have various restrictions on speech and various national commissions, and all of this is going to be worked out in this government-level manner. When really, if there were no jihad, if there were no Sharia oppression, there'd be no Islamophobia. It's very simple.
Yeah, and it's the same thing here. I mean, all the things that people like Hijab complain about, right? It was all a result of me dialing things up in response to them dialing things up. So when they complained about Islamicize me, you're a fan of Islamicize me, aren't you, Robert?
I'm a big fan. Yes, indeed. That was one of the greatest productions ever. You got to admit.
Yeah, that was. It is cool now because we have more fans and more supporters now, so we realize we can do even bigger productions for
fantastic
for other installments. But yeah, so people complain about Islamicizing me. I did Islamicize me because after Nabil died, I got hundreds of messages seeking Jesus, finding cancer. And they all thought this was absolutely hilarious. Now, guess what? You have freedom of speech. You are allowed to say that. But there are these things called repercussions, consequences. And when you guys come at me, when these guys come at me like this, I have no inclination to just, oh, let me go after this person. It's always, I'm going to go after your prophet now. I'm going to go after your prophet. And then I go after their prophet. And how could you do that, David? Well, you guys started that, right? And then Hijab, when he pulls his stunt that he pulled, get David Wood to agree to all these rules that won't allow him to insult back and will make him be friendly the entire time and won't allow him to go off on other tangents that I go on, and then I will break all the agreement. Well, great. You can do that, right? Anyone can do that, right? Anyone can do that. Shabir Ali has never done that with me. Shabir Ali could do that. We could set up a debate and he could just break all the rules. It can be done. There are repercussions. It can be done, but there are repercussions. And then they got Muhammad's boom boom room. And then everyone, I can't believe you blow up Muhammad over and over and over again. Guys, I don't know how you're not getting this. So notice, Hijab knows this about me. He knows this is how I roll. He knows if he dials it up, I'll dial it up too. And what does he do? Let's start this epic insult battle with all these people. Knowing, I mean, what's he thinking? I mean, wow. I don't know, man.
This is what they say, to a man who only has a hammer, every problem is a nail. And this is the thing. The guy is only one way to react to anything. And so he just keeps dialing it up.
Keeps dialing it up. How's that working out for you, Hijab? All right, so we've scrolled through the tweets about me again, ladies and gentlemen. It took me all of 6 to 8 seconds to trigger all these guys. Into losing their minds. And it doesn't seem like it's going to be very difficult to do again. Do I want to go down this route? No. Will I go down this road? Absolutely. Trust me. Guys. Hijab got me to give my word that I would not do certain things in that debate. Show me where I broke my word. I will keep my word, even if you are breaking your word in every conceivable way. I will keep it, and I'm giving you my word, Hijab. You better take some stuff down and do some apologizing, because you have no idea what's coming at your book. You have no idea. We can do Desecrate the Quran Week, Desecrate the Quran Month. We can do Desecrate the Quran Year. So many creative possibilities. Lining your birdcage with the Quran. Lining your kitty litter box with the Quran. All sorts of toilet things, urine things, all kinds of things. What animal can you get to eat the Quran? Do I want to go down this road? No. But he's sitting there telling his entire community, we must all go do this. We must all harass these women and harass their family. We must heap abuse on them and talk about all this sexually perverted stuff and talk about the golden showers. What about the golden showers? I don't know if you even saw that, but he came into a chat with me and the Apostate Prophet when you're doing a live stream and started talking about, hey, Apostate Prophet, I know you want the golden showers from David Wood, and it's just saying the most disgusting.
What a pig.
It's disgusting. It's disgusting, right? I mean, the most disgusting people I've encountered in my life do not behave like this guy who's considered this champion of Islam nowadays. Interesting stuff.
Well, you know, that's what happens when you imitate Muhammad.
Yeah, it sure is. Yeah, we know where it came. We know where he's getting this stuff from. Did want to have a couple of these tweets from Hijab earlier. Look at this. You got some people saying this. Brian Clone, bro, you're falling into Mohammed Hijab's trap with this nonsense. Dude, if you think Mohammed Hijab has some brilliant plan, you do not know Mohammed Hijab, right? Now, I will tell you exactly what's going on and how no one's falling into any trap here. Here it is. Oopsie, I cause thousands, maybe more, Muslims to doubt the reliability of the Quran because I'm stupid and I didn't know that I shouldn't be pressing Yasser Qadi on this stuff. Now everyone's making videos about the holes in the Quran, and it's a massive embarrassment. Let me go and attack a bunch of people in a different way, get everyone to focus on this stuff, and be freaking out about this stuff, and maybe they'll forget about these holes in the Quran, right? So he's thinking, well, we'll start this big ruckus about him and freedom of speech and so on, blah, 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 right? So that's what you're saying. That's what we've fallen into. No. Because he was not anticipating, well, we're going to dial it up, and now he's going to be the target of a massive backlash that ends up disgracing the Quran way more than the holes in the narrative, but which then ties together with it, because guess what? A lot of those videos that are defiling the Quran are going to have something to do with the holes in the Quran. So it's all going to come together. He's not getting away with it, right? And this is what, so this guy's not a brilliant planner here. This is not Hannibal from the A-Team. Right? This guy.
You could even dramatize all the episodes that are in the Hadith literature about pieces of the Quran that are missing. I mean, of course, most notoriously the sheep eating a piece. Mm-hmm. But there's so many other stories of, you know, the guy who's reciting Surah 9 and this other guy comes along and says, hey, you forgot these parts. Mm-hmm. And he says they would have been lost if he hadn't come along at the right moment. There's so many of these stories, and the Muhammad dictating and the scribe repeats it back, but adds in some stuff because he wants to make sure he understands it. Muhammad says, "Yeah, that's good. Add that in." Mm-hmm. Well,
yeah, actually, I was just
Islamic sources.
I was just about to make a video on that.
There you go.
On that particular topic. But yeah, no, what you mentioned about reenacting the hadiths, I've already talked to Vocab about that, where just some of the classic hadiths, like the woman being beaten until her skin turned green and thinking that Muhammad is going to defend her, not realizing it. Just some of these classic hadith, just get these actually just reenacted. And,
sounds great.
Mm-hmm. All right. Let's go ahead and check out these two tweets from Hijab. These are the ones we talked about yesterday, but people don't seem to really grasp much of them. So this was one. Did you see this one where I misread this? So I misread it. Can you see it on your screen where you are, Robert?
No, all I see is you.
Oh no, but you see me, right? Okay, wait, you see me on?
Oh, should I go to the YouTube?
Yeah, you can. Matter of fact, I'll just yeah, you can, but I can also just I can read it out to you. So this is Mohammed Hijab, and he has posted a picture. I could click on it, and then you see it's a picture, and then a tweet from Mrs. Apostate. So that's the Apostate Prophet's wife. But he says, when these anti-Muslim attention whore Islamophobes need to get on their knees in intellectual submission before they are whipped by freedom of speech by the Twitter Muslims, and they reluctantly open their mouth in protestation to find they have been defiled by truth. So this is all in the context of talking about Mrs. Apostate here. And so it's attention whore Islamophobes need to get on their knees before they are whipped by freedom of speech by the Twitter Muslims, and they reluctantly open their mouth in protestation to find they have been defiled by the truth. So they're going to be whipped and defiled. But he just puts, truth by, they're defiled by truth there. And so it's not literal. But all the imagery is of torturing and rape, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It also is very Quranic, you know? This is the kind of language the Quran uses, with the truth knocking falsehood on the head, and passages of this kind. It's all lots of violent imagery, hateful imagery. The unbelievers are like animals, the most vile of created beings. The man has learned his religion well. You got to give him that.
Mm-hmm. And if you'd like to see the level of response here. So this is Big Man. Marie Wood, it's my wife, loves getting on her knees for big Muslim censored. These are the responses, right? These are the guys who don't offend our prophet, don't offend our religion. And these are the kinds of responses we get, right? And then when I dial things up against them, how dare you? How dare you? Dude, when your religion produces dudes like you, my goodness, you all I can say is you forfeit the right. You forfeit the right to complain, right? When it's
well, that how dare you business, that's dimitude again. He's presupposing the status of non-Muslims under Islamic hegemony, that you're supposed to submit and take it meekly. You're supposed to get on your knees and allow all this to be said and not say a word. Bow your head and submit and feel yourself subdued. That's your natural place in the world. And if you don't do that, then they have to keep putting pressure on you until you do.
And when it doesn't work, you turn up the pressure, and then you realize, whoopsie, made a big, big boo-boo here.
But those are the only choices Allah gives them, right? That you're not going to convert. They may kill you, but they haven't killed you yet. And you have to submit. Those are the only choices. So they're going to keep pressuring you, keep trying to intimidate you, keep insulting you, keep slinging, all this mud until you submit. Because those are the only choices Allah has given them. If they're going to obey Allah, if they're going to be the executors of Allah's wrath, like in Surah 9, chapter 4, verse 14, where it says, fight them and Allah will punish them by your hands. So if Allah's going to punish us by the hands of people like Mohammed Hijab, well, how is he going to do that? He has to humiliate and disgrace us and shame us. This is all he's got.
Yeah, so this is really heading in an awesome direction. So I want to just remind everyone, right? Because we tend to think, no, we don't want people like Hijab interacting with us. We don't want that. We want, the nice representatives. They're so much friendlier. We want other people to represent Islam, to interact with. And what you're really saying is this is based on your feelings, right? You feel better around certain people. Well, guess what? Yes, everyone is going to feel better around nice people that you can get along with than people who are saying all sorts of perverted things about golden showers and, perverted sexual torture imagery and rape imagery about your wife. Yes, people are not going to be comfortable with that. But guess what? If these guys become the public face, of Islam, people are going to be introduced to actual Islam. It won't just be, there's a terrorist, but, all
He's
religions,
just an extremist.
The religions have their radicals and so on. It's going to be, whoa, these are the guys who are popular on YouTube. These are the guys who have the most followers on YouTube, and these are the popular guys. So this is not some extreme fringe. This is popular level Islam, and it will be, because there are tons of people like that. You can see it. They're right here. They're right here in the.
And then a lot of Muslims in the West are going to leave, because a lot of young Muslims, particularly in the West, they've been growing up with all this deception. They're not just deceiving us, they're deceiving their own people and telling them Islam is a religion of peace and tolerance and coexistence and love. There are a lot of young Muslims actually believe this because they haven't studied the Quran. They recite it in Arabic. They may not know Arabic. They may not be all that observant. And they have no reason to doubt their leaders. So the leaders have been lying to them all these years. They're going to be very upset when they find out that's not really Islam at all. And then there's going to be a massive exodus.
Oh yeah, and that's kind of the greatest thing. You of course have the chest thumping. We follow him strong. We follow him strong. Right? You have those kinds, but then you just have so many Muslims who live better lives than their prophet. They live better lives than they're called to live. They live far better lives, and they really believe that their religion teaches them to live these better lives when it doesn't, but they don't know any better. They haven't been shown true Islam. Once people are starting to look around and saying, oh my goodness, Mohammed Hijab, that's the example. That's the example of someone who's really following the teachings of Muhammad. I am out of here. And then what happens? There's going to be, as you pointed, there's going to be this exodus. There's going to be this exodus from Islam. There's going to be this exodus from Islam, and then what are you going to be left with? The hijab fans thumping their chest, talking about your wives?
Yeah, you are. Because they're the ones that have taken over. When you think about the historic jihads and the huge, massive conquest of territory, what did they do? They came in, they subjugated the infidels, they made them live as inferiors, they humiliated and disgraced them. A lot of them, they couldn't take it over the centuries, and they converted to Islam. Egypt was 99% Christian when it was conquered. Now it is 10% Christian. Where'd the rest of them go? Did they leave? They didn't leave. They're still there. They're the Muslims.
Yep.
And most of them converted not because they saw the wonderful light of Islam, but because they were humiliated, they were belittled, they were demeaned, they were discriminated against, they were intimidated, and they finally thought, I don't have to live in this way with constant harassment from these people if I join them.
Yeah.
And they did.
And so it's it's 14 centuries. 14 centuries is you subjugate people. Even if you can't subjugate people, you just constant intimidation, abuse, threats, because people just don't like that, right? You don't want to spend your entire life with abuse being poured on you. I've seen so many people. I've seen Christian evangelists, right? Young Christian evangelists. Hey, David, I have a heart for reaching Muslims, and I want to go out and reach Muslims with the gospel, and I have a passion for reaching Muslims. And 6 months later, they don't want anything to do with that, right?
Yeah.
Because why?
They have no idea what they're getting into. They have no idea. I think most people in the West have no possible sense, no notion whatsoever of the kind of hatred, the kind of evil they will encounter from observant, knowledgeable, serious Muslims. And Mohammed Hijab is actually an excellent example of the kind of really hateful soul that devoutness in Islam produces.
Perfect example. That's why he is perfect. Hijab is the perfect example. I do not want any other representative apart from him and his sidekick, Ali Dawah. Though that's the dynamic duo that needs to represent Islam. You couldn't have dreamed. I could have written down the perfect person to represent Islam, to really show Islam's true colors, and I still wouldn't. It wouldn't have been as perfect as Mohammed Hijab. So mind blown. Let's check out one more hijab tweet so people can start to recognize the issue here. So the one there at the top of the middle two there. Hijab said, I call upon all of the Muslim Twitter soldiers to work within the full scope of the law to create maximum damage to the cause of Apist, the apostate prophet, and his public figure with, can't even spell correctly, and then, of course, a name. They are demoralized and on the ropes. Do not let the weak-minded Muslims deter you. Finish them. So who are the weak-minded Muslims, according to Mohammed Hijab? That would be any of you Muslims out there who are watching and you think, hey, this is not a good way to behave. You're the ones that hijab is calling the weak-minded Muslims. Right? You don't understand that it's good. It's good to be heaping abuse, on people's families and wives and so on. They are demoralizing on the ropes. Do not let the weak-minded Muslims deter you. So when Muslims say, hey, guys, this is not a good idea, we should not be behaving this way, then he's saying they're weak-minded. Finish them. Finish them. So keep heaping abuse. So notice he calls on the Muslim Twitter soldiers. That's like keyboard jihadis. I've been calling people keyboard jihadis for years, and now we have the Twitter soldiers.
The Twitter soldiers.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think this is, once again, this guy just keeps exemplifying the move to the next stage of jihad, the deep hatefulness of the imitators of Muhammad. The violent language here is extraordinary. Finish them. That usually means kill them. And we will continue to choke on the thunderous word of Allah. You're trying to appeal to people to convert to Islam, and you say, you will choke on the thunderous word of Allah?
Yeah.
This is not appealing to people in the West, but Mohammed Hijab doesn't even care, because he's moved away from the stage of appealing to people in the West with fairer words than the infidels use and so on. He is now going to force this upon us, and he's been emboldened by all the cowardice that he's encountered in the West to think that he can actually get away with this now. I mean, even he wasn't talking this way when you debated him. He was rude, he was nasty, he was a jerk, but he wasn't, the violent imagery wasn't there that I recall.
No, he's definitely gotten worse, and this is something that I started saying back in 2018, that if you let basically these young guys like Hijab and Ali Dawah and so on, if you let them start getting popular, right? These are these younger, aggressive guys. If you start letting these guys get popular, they're already just young and aggressive. That's their personality type. Their religion encourages them to threaten and intimidate and to use all sorts of abusive language. If they then become popular on YouTube and get a following that's going to cheer them on, they're not going to be able to handle it. They're just going to lose their minds, and they're going to go out just heaping abuse on people and being cheered on by their mob. And anyone who gets in their way from their own community is going to be crushed. And you even see in there, don't listen to those weak-minded Muslims. And by this, who? What? All of the scholars of Islam, all the classic apologists who are saying, guys, you're embarrassing us. Don't do this. Don't go down this road. This is going to lead.
Yeah, but that's the old guard.
Yeah.
Those are the old out-of-touch guys, Shabir and the guys like that. They're nice guys. They're winning personalities, because they understood that was the way to operate in the West, and they understood also that Islam, being a tiny minority in the West, operating from a position of weakness, that was imitating the Prophet in its own way. But if Shabir, Ali, and guys like that are going to be consistent, they can't really condemn Mohammed Hijab either, because they know that what he's doing is in line with the Quranic trajectory of peace and tolerance to defensive jihad to offensive jihad. They know that it's in line with Muhammad's vulgar, disgusting verbal abuse that he heaped upon his opponents. So what can they say? They just have to give way now.
And they will, unless Hijab willingly decides to stop. His crowd will crush their crowds, because their crowd's nice and Hijab's crowd isn't. Wanted to respond to one comment here, and then we'll take some. We'll actually take questions from the super chat. There are a lot of comments here. But the Truth Apologetic says, teach them righteousness, love, respect, and kindness. Don't do what they do. So he's responding here to things like eating a page of the Quran, things like that. Don't do that. Teach them righteousness, love, respect, and kindness. Don't do what they do. Now think about this, Truth and Apologetics. Hijab is telling his army, and he called them that, his Twitter soldiers, his Twitter army. He's telling them to go around harassing the families, the wives of anyone who's critical of Islam. He's telling, go out there, harass them. And how does he want them to go about this? By using golden showers. You want golden showers. We're going to get you up against a wall and defile you with the truth. We're going to do that, right? That's how he's encouraging these people. And a lot of Christians don't seem to understand that there are different roles that people take, right? You could be a Christian and a police officer. If you're a Christian and a police officer and a terrorist shows up and he's about to blow people up, your job as a police officer is to shoot him and make sure he doesn't blow people up. That's not, oh, let me witness to him with the gospel. You have a job as a police officer, right? If you're a Christian and a fireman, well, you have to run into a building and take people out of the burning building, right? You have that job as a protector. Well, you have someone who's calling on his people to heap endless abuse on people, to go around insulting and degrading women, families, things like that. Okay, I believe that there are Christians who need to actually stop that if they can, and I believe we can. But it's not through, I'm going to show him righteousness. I will show him righteousness, but I'll do that by showing him some consistency, right?
This is very important, David. Excuse me, I didn't mean to cut you off, but there's very important point here, and there's more. You know, I got this a whole lot back in 2015 when we had our Muhammad art exhibit and cartoon contest, and the jihadis showed up from the Islamic Community Center of Phoenix to murder everybody who was there, and they themselves were killed.
That was the basis. That was the basis for Islamicize Me. We just made we made a fictional story out of that event.
Yeah. So the thing about it is, right after that happened, I started getting all kinds of people, all kinds of Christians, I should say, who were scolding me. People in my own church, people telling me, you should never have done this. This is not charitable. You can't go around insulting other people's religious figures. Christians are not supposed to do that. You're supposed to be kind and gentle and generous and magnanimous and loving and so on. Okay. Think about this, though. Where's Mohammed Hijab going to be in 5 years if this is what he's doing now? What's he going to be doing then? He might not be just a keyboard warrior then. He might be actually doing it. If he is stopped now, that's an act of charity for the victims that he wants to have, or he may have in the future if he starts to act out on his words. In the same way, the whole business about drawing cartoons of Muhammad, the jihadis who killed at the Charlie Hebdo magazine in Paris, and the jihadis who tried to kill us in Texas, they want us to shut up. They want us to not draw Muhammad. And they say, we'll kill you if you draw Muhammad, right? And they did kill in Paris, and they tried to kill in Texas. And the thing is, a lot of Christians at that point would say, yeah, don't draw Muhammad because it's insulting. You have to be charitable. Okay, but who are we going to be charitable to? Is it really charitable to our children and to our grandchildren and to our civilization as a whole if we encourage and embolden and submit to violent intimidation? How is that going to make the world look in 5 years or 10 years or 15 years if we're giving in now and submitting and showing all you have to do is threaten to kill us and we'll back off our cherished principles and give you what you want? I want it to be charitable to the people who are coming after me in the West, to the Christians who are going to be not subjected to violent intimidation if we stand up for the principle of the freedom of speech now. But if we submit to violent intimidation now, we're only going to get more of it, and it's going to become more and more emboldened. And so this that's happening with Mohammed Hijab is exactly really the same. All these things always come back to this. It's all intimidation. It's the same thing that happened to us in the wake of Garland. And Christians need to understand that their charity should also extend to the victims of these tactics and the victims of jihad violence, the victims of Sharia oppression, and that it is not just so simple as to say, oh, don't insult Muhammad because that's mean to Muslims and not charitable. That is enabling a very insidious process that will result inevitably in vast amounts of people suffering misery that they don't need to go through.
Yeah, and I mean, I just think, the truth apologetics here. If you're walking down an alley and you see someone raping a woman, what do? Do you teach him righteousness, love, and respect and kindness? Because I would crack him upside his head instantly.
There you go.
I would
Yep.
crack him upside his head, because that's what I would do in that situation, right? Later on, if you want to visit him in jail and so on, or if while you've got him pinned to the ground, you want to teach him something, great. But that's what I would do in that situation. Well, imagine that someone's not being raped. What if a guy is just screaming and heaping abuse on a woman on a train? What do you do? Well, it kind of depends on the situation, right? What if you see someone plotting something, and he's sitting there, and he's got an army of Twitter trolls, and he's plotting this campaign of sexually explicit and torture-based harassment of women. Well, if you can stop that, I believe you should stop it. So this is not David Wood as a Christian apologist. This is David Wood as a man. If God didn't want me going after these guys and stopping them from doing this stuff, he shouldn't have made me a man. You know what I mean?
There you go. Yeah.
Right? So I look at this situation and I say, okay, here's a job. Here's what he's about to do. And the vast majority of people have no idea how to deal with them. I know how to deal with them and make them stop.
Yeah.
Well, great. Now I believe that I'm put here by the Almighty to go out and stop him, right? And
There are very few men these days. That's that's a big reason why people don't understand this, and they equate being charitable with being cowardly, and turn the other cheek has become this vastly misunderstood principle. I believe that means let injustice run wild and let your loved ones suffer because you're not willing to defend them.
Yeah, how's that worked out, church? Church, how's that approach been working out for the church? Huh?
Yeah, let's ask the Church of Egypt or the Church of North Africa or the Church of Syria or Iraq.
Christians in America, how's that been working out for you? Let's just make sure we get along and we never hurt anyone's feelings and never offend anyone. How's that worked out for you? All right? No.
And also this quietism, this passivity. I've spoken to lots of Christian groups where over the years people have ultimately responded to the explanations that I've given them about the jihad imperative by saying, well, Jesus is going to protect us and prevent all this from happening. Well, how can you be sure that that's going to happen for the church in America when it didn't happen for the church in North Africa or the church in the Middle East or the church in so many other places? Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that he's not that the final consummation of all things and his return is not going to happen, but to just count on this is to allow those who would destroy the church a free hand, and to destroy the church is to destroy the future of our children and our children's children, because you're condemning them to live in a society where they will be constantly threatened, constantly harassed, enslaved at will. And if you don't believe me, just look at how Christians have it in these Sharia states.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and all right, so yeah, just to sum up there, if you're saying, guys, here's what it looks like. Here's what it looks like you're saying to me, right? So this is what it looks like. Here's a guy who's about to do horrible things to a lot of women, and I can stop him, but don't stop him. That's what you're telling me.
Yep, that's charity according to all too many people in the church today. One
thing I know about Jesus. He picked a lot of fights.
That, my friend, is a completely forgotten and misunderstood aspect of the gospel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and guys, if you are an oppressor, oppressing other people, heaping abuse on other people, Jesus was coming after you. Jesus was coming after you. And then gosh, I can imagine some of these guys here being around at the time of Jesus. Jesus, woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, you hypocrites, you whitewash them. No. Just teach them righteousness, Jesus. You're doing it all wrong. You're doing it all wrong, Lord.
You're going to insult them. There is that passage where he says, don't you realize you insulted them?
Yeah. Oh, I love that passage. Yeah, he says. Yeah. So he's going after one group. Woe unto you! Woe unto you! And then the other group says, "By you're offending us too." Yeah. Woe unto you too! And he's blasting away in all directions there. Yeah, very different from a lot of Christians in United States and Europe nowadays. All right, let's go ahead and take some comments from the chat. We got some questions. I mean, from the super chat here, we got some questions. Cassia just said 100. I guess that I'm not familiar with the with the internet slang, but I think 100 just means like 100% or something like this. Sarah Rainey says, very thankful there are people like you who don't submit to intimidation. Yeah, there's yep. So
Yep.
there aren't a tremendous number. Robert Spencer.
No, very few.
Robert Spencer, Pamela Geller, Sam Shamoun's never going to back down. Christian Prince never going to back down. Apostate Prophet's never going to back down. Yeah, but that's the thing. You can have a small number. You can have 10 or 12 people who will never back down. And, well, guess what? If your only tool in your tool belt is getting people to back down, and you eventually run into people who never back down, well, you either kill them or you lose.
That's it.
So get to sawing this head off, or you lose. Hijab.
Oh, and then everybody will love Islam.
Yeah, I know that's what's funny. I just posted a video about that. It's basically, look, you either kill me or you don't. If you don't, then I keep blasting away at Islam. If you do, you draw a bunch more attention to my videos. And so, either way, yeah,
yep,
you're done. Caitlin says, great work. Keep up the great work. Thank you. Alex says, can you do a video on Bilal Scaff? I don't know who that is, so I'm guessing no, unless I hear more about him at some point. AS says, careful, David. Twitter soldiers can fly like a flying donkey. JT, here's a question.
Have Burak?
Yeah.
Maybe he can ride Burak to come visit you.
Never-ending story. It's a movie. I've wanted for a long time to get a special effects guy to put Muhammad on that flying white creature from the Never-Ending Story. But like one of the Charlie Hebdo cartoons with Muhammad flying on the back, or better yet, vocab as that thing. That would be classic. Here's a question, Robert. JT, Robert, can you speak to the similarities between Islam and the political left in the West? Because, and the person doesn't say, JT doesn't say this, but everyone I say is confused by how, in the name of common sense, do these people and the things they say agree remotely with that, and yet they seem to have some similarities here.
They have very great similarities. One of them is that they are both authoritarian, both violent. They both hate America. They both hate the freedom of speech. They both hate freedom, as remember Ali Dawah said. You know I forget exactly how he put it, but you played it earlier. That if this freedom business, you're not going to have that anymore.
He calls it BS. And he says,
"There you go.
For your freedom or your rights, it's BS."
Yeah.
My goodness.
So the left is the same way. You know, if you look at every Marxist state and the whole Democratic Party, the whole half of the political leadership nowadays is Marxists. And Black Lives Matter, Marxists, they avowedly, by their own words, they said this is a Marxist organization. The leader said. Now, Marxism has been tried. We have seen it in the world, and it's very much like Sharia states, where it rules by intimidation, it rules by the threat of violence, it creates an empire of fear. Mm-hmm. And that's their ultimate connection, that Islam has never had any problem coexisting with authoritarian regimes. As a matter of fact, that's its natural habitat, because it lends itself to authoritarianism, as Allah is the ultimate master and completely arbitrary despot of all the Muslims and all the world. So you create a ruler in that mold, you get Stalin or Mao or Hitler. So it's all the same kind of thing. Islam has never been compatible with free societies, with free republics, with democracy. That's where there's only people always used to say, oh, but look at Turkey. Turkey is going to be the model for all the other Islamic countries. Nobody says that anymore. Yeah, it may well be, but not the way they were telling me. This is another thing where the edifice is crumbling these days, and Turkey becoming an Islamic state, rapidly re-Islamizing, converting Hagia Sophia into a mosque, which is, I think, an interlocking set of symbolisms there. Hagia Sophia was originally a church symbolizing the glory of Christianity. Then it was a mosque symbolizing the victory of Islam over Christianity. Then it was a museum signifying for Ataturk, the founder of secular Turkey, the victory of secularism over Islam, which he hated. Mm-hmm. And now Erdogan has rolled that back, and he is reasserting that Islam is victorious over both Christianity and secularism. So nobody talks about Turkey as a wonderful democratic model anymore. Islam always tends back toward authoritarianism, and that's where the left lives.
And this seems to be happening a lot over the past couple decades, really, that people have there's this general widespread belief, and then it kind of gets tested and they find out that it just blows up in their face. So when Barack Obama came to power and he went over and gave his Cairo speech, there was this general attitude everywhere I looked that the reason you have these problems is because the Muslim world just feels like it's been disrespected and we've been mean towards them. And if we just go and show them respect and show them that, you know, we have no problem with them and that, you know, if we bow to them and so on, you'll see that peace and democracy will flourish, because right now it's just they're angry about us being so mean and not showing them respect. And so everyone really thought that. And then Barack Obama goes over and just heaps praises on them and goes around bowing to everyone and, hey, let's help all these, you know, freedom-loving peoples rise up. And then you get the Arab Spring and you get ISIS and you have all these jihadi movements collapsing entire countries. And the good thing that came out of that is I don't hear a lot of people who think that anymore. Like, oh, yeah, you know, if you just went and bowed to them and showed them a little respect and showed them this is how you interact, right? That was the whole thing when Obama was going over there. You guys have never learned how to interact with these guys. I'll show you how it's done. I'll show you how to get them to love us and love our culture and love our civilization. I'll show you how to do it. Bam, ISIS, brilliant plan. Yeah, so fortunately, fortunately, tons of people die because people have these various beliefs that then get exposed, and then you spend decades trying to clean up the messes that have been caused. But
yeah, because American foreign policy has been based on that since before Obama. George W. Bush really started that ball rolling right after 9/11 when he said Islam is peace, and spent most of his speech, people don't remember this part of it, he spent most of his speech telling Americans not to attack innocent Muslims, as if that were happening, as if Americans would do that for the most part. But he set the tone that really continued and still continues to a tremendous degree in the foreign policy establishment, the State Department, and so on. But it's only Trump who has set a different direction going and finally stood up and said, we're not going to keep submitting to intimidation. We're not going to keep trying to win hearts and minds over people who only grow more suspicious of us when we try.
Has Robert heard of recent riots in Indian city of Bangalore? Someone posted something about Muhammad and Muslims burnt down 2 police stations and homes. So did you follow that story from India?
Yeah, of course. The gentleman here or the lady should read Jihad Watch. Jihadwatch.org, updated 10 times at least daily with news and commentary on jihad activity in the United States and around the world. We had coverage of the riots in Bangalore. We showed what they were based upon, which was the rumor of a blasphemous Facebook post. This is something, of course, that we've seen many, many other times in Pakistan, notably, but also in India itself, that Muslims will riot and kill over even just a suggestion that somebody has committed blasphemy. This is, of course, the action of the community that has been emboldened and is more assertive. And this is what Mohammed Hijab and Ali Dawah are tending toward. This is the United States in 10 years or 15 years if their movement is not stopped now.
And anyone can refresh their page. I just added a link to, I already had a link to Robert's YouTube channel there, but I added a link to the website Jihad Watch. So if you want to, it's basically, I don't know a better website to keep up to date on global jihad activity than Robert's site. Aaron Larson says, amen, Brother Robert, if not for Charles the Hammer.
Yep.
Let's see.
Nobody said to Charles the Hammer, hey, you're being Islamophobic. You should be more respectful.
Amateur Anth said, you should actually put some holes in the Quran and show it in a video. Already got that planned, Amateur Anth. one of the reasons I didn't mind, you know, just chewing up parts of this and spitting them out is because I know I'm gonna drill holes in it anyway. So I'm gonna have the holy Quran, and it's gonna have more holes in a donut shop because there are holes in the narrative. Dr. Yasser Qadi has agreed to that.
Yes.
Islam Critiqued. Are you familiar with Islam Critiqued? His channel?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Colin, yeah, he started up way later than the rest of us, but he's been putting out phenomenal content. So Islam Critique said, Mohammed Hijab wanted me to tell you, you're in trouble, boy, but he spelled it urine.
I got it.
Yeah. Grace with the super sticker. Choose Jesus says Jesus Akbar. Lucis MMV said, Allah didn't protect his Quran again. Maybe he was asleep or maybe he was away on a journey. he's applying the Elijah text to me eating the Quran. And then we have a message from the apostate prophet himself. Said, I don't understand why Muhammad Broomhead approves of sexually insulting Allah when we would never tell him to go and orally satisfy his beloved Muhammad. So notice, everyone, the hijab saying, well, I would never do this, therefore you should never do. Well, hijab, I would never lie to someone while setting up a debate. I would never break an agreement. You do all these things, so don't demand consistency when you show none, right?
It's also perhaps worth noting here that Muhammad, given the contents of several hadith about kissing men and so on, he might not be averse to that kind of idea.
Yeah, you do find we've talked about it. We talked about this recently, where there's this story about someone named I think it's Diha al-Kalbi, but it's someone who was seen leaving Muhammad's house on various occasions, and Muhammad was asked about it, and the response was, no, that was Gabriel. That was the angel Gabriel. He looks just like that young man. Right? So, I don't know, but see, here's the thing. If Muhammad were like good and righteous in every other way, I wouldn't think, oh, well, maybe he was doing something with this young guy. But given everything else that I've seen from him, walking around covered in semen stains and, you know, having sex with between 9 and 11 wives, you know, women and girls in a single night, and all these other perverted things. I have to take the wife of my own adopted son. Oh, I have to take this little girl. Oh, I have to take this old woman. It just seems like there weren't a lot of limitations on Muhammad's sexual behavior. So I think he was definitely a deviant there. But more on that as things unfold with Mr. Hijab here. George Bond says 37 Arabic Qurans equal 37 Allahs. Which Allah do you pray to? An even better question is, who does each one of those Allahs pray to? Because Allah prays for Muhammad, ladies and gentlemen, according to Mohammed Hijab. Jason Lippert says David is living rent-free in Hijab's head. Yeah, it's looking at his Twitter page, my goodness, if he's blowing up on his Twitter page with that right now, imagine once I actually get started. Silencer says God is so wonderful. True. Aaron Larson says, that's the most infuriating thing about these guys, the sheer dishonesty. Preach on, brother. So, yeah, it's the lying. It's the lying. And Robert, you've experienced this. We've both experienced it with the same people. The lying. If you don't trust them, then you're a racist. But then as soon as you do trust them, they take advantage of it and they lie to you.
Yeah, well, you mentioned before the guy in Philly, the Shiite imam. I can't remember his name. Do you remember his name?
No.
But anyway, he, as you've noted, they took the last 10 minutes and did not allow for any rebuttal, and waited till that time to come out with all these blistering personal attacks.
Showered you with abuse. Yeah.
Yes, with no chance to respond. And this was something that we had both agreed to beforehand, that there would be no personal attacks, and that there would be strict adherence to the subject matter. But, you know, it's interesting also to note in that connection that they lied about that as well, because there was no strict adherence to the subject matter. You remember we drove down to that debate and we're going through Shiite hadith and going through all sorts of things in the car on the way to prepare. And once we got there, we had all sorts of places marked in the Shiite hadith books and various other things ready for what we anticipated would be their arguments based on the agreed upon topic of the debate. But instead, the fellow read canned responses that completely ignored what we said and completely ignored the topic of the debate as had been agreed upon, and instead just gave sort of a standard Islamic apologetic presentation. And it probably wasn't even aware of the brazenness of this dishonesty, because after all, the Shiites invented taqiyya. I mean, it's based on the Quran. It's in chapter 3, verse 28 of the Quran. But the Shiites really developed it as a theological concept. And I believe it was Jafar, the sixth Imam, who said that you don't have taqiyya, you're not a Muslim. So they value it. They value this deception, this lying, a great deal. It's a kind of a sacramental act.
Yeah, and that's really been happening since I started. I believe it was like my first or second debate. It was my first debate with a Muslim, and he demanded that we exchange our arguments prior to the debate, so days in advance of the debate. And I said, no. If you're not ready, then no, right? I mean, if you're not ready, then don't debate. And he insisted it, and then he got all these other people involved in the conversation, and he's trying to make sure we're not prepared and stuff like that. And so finally, okay, fine, I'll agree. Here are my 4 arguments. And he said, all right, here are my 4 arguments. We actually got to the debate. He briefly mentioned one of the arguments, and then he ignored all the other 3, and he used completely new arguments.
Of course.
And what I noticed after that is I would bring this up to Muslims. I would say, hey, you know this Muslim debater, you know what he did? And they would just be like, ha, you fell for that, you're stupid.
Yep.
And I've seen that over and over again ever since. And
I got another one, David. Do you know Hussein Ibish?
No.
He's not really on the scene anymore. I don't know what's happened to him. I hope he's well. But Hussein Ibish, right after 9/11, was very big in the literal sense. He was huge, probably 500 pounds.
That's pretty cool.
A spokesman for an apologist for Islam. And I tangled with him several times on various shows. And I was on some show once and was talking about Islamic anti-Semitism and noted that the Quran said that the Jews were transformed into apes and pigs. And he said, that's not in the Quran. Now, I was sort of dismayed because obviously, you know, it's in 3 places. Chapter 2, 62 to 65, 559 and 60, and 7166. It's very clear there are plenty of Islamic preachers today who refer to the Jews as apes and pigs or the children of apes and pigs because of these passages. But he was brazenly denying it. I then gave the verse numbers, and that's not even the end of the story. He then wrote an article in a magazine. I wish I could remember which one, but anyway, it doesn't matter, saying Spencer is this brazen liar, and he said that the Quran says that the Jews were transformed into apes and pigs. And of course, none of that is in the Quran. And the sheer audacity of it just took my breath away. I still can't believe it when I think about it now, that he was absolutely depending upon, and of course he knew he could depend upon, the ignorance of his audience. And thus he knew that I would know he was lying, and he would know he was lying.
Yep.
But everybody hearing us wouldn't know he was lying, and that was all that mattered. Would not know.
Yeah, and one thing you find out is that the fans just don't care, right? Like you could line up 100. Now, to be clear, not talking about all Muslims here. There are plenty of Muslims who would find this behavior reprehensible. I'm talking about the people who gather around someone like Mohammed Hijab. You can line up 100 Mohammed Hijab fans and say, hey, the Muslim side demanded that David agree to all these rules, and the Muslim side agreed to all these rules, and then the Muslim side broke all the rules. David stuck to the rules. Is there a problem with that? And the response is absolutely not. You criticize Muhammad, therefore we can treat you like this. And what's
Ruthless
amazing
to the unbelievers, merciful to one another.
And war is deceit, as Muhammad said.
There you go.
And yet, if we were arranging another debate right now, and they said, and here are all the rules that we must follow, and I said, I'm not signing on to any rules with you. You guys are liars. This bigot, what a coward! He's refusing! He sees the power of our intellectual arguments for Islam! Wow, what a religion, man, what a religion.
Yes.
Helena Hagman said, "Hi, my Muslim female friend from the UK, parents from UK and Russia, wants to discuss Islam with you on your YouTube live show. She has Skype." Helena, go to my About page on my YouTube channel, get my email address, go ahead and send me an email. Happy to have her on. She can tell us what she wants to discuss. And if you've seen some of our discussions with people who aren't, like Mohammed Hijab, we generally have pretty friendly, calm discussions. So yeah, we're happy to have her on, and she can have a friend on with her. So if she wants to bring her a mom on or something like that, we're happy to have them on.
David, you're working from the Quran now. That if bring two women, because if one of them forgets, the other one can help her. Chapter 2, verse 282.
That's good. That would be funny if that actually, they were. I can't remember. Aha, that's right here. Great point. And Warren Stefanak says, Bilal Skaff is a Muslim rapist who has been sentenced to 30 years in prison in Australia. So yeah, I hadn't heard about that, but
I don't think he's eligible to come on a YouTube video.
I think he was asking if I would make a video about him. And basically, if it's not really connected to the ideology, I don't want to go around saying, "Oh, this guy, this Muslim guy killed someone," because there are other people who kill people.
Sure.
You can have any ideology who goes on a killing, but if it's I'm doing this because of my ideology or something like that, then I'd be interested.
A lot of the rapists have said that. The ISIS guys would quote read Quran and then rape their sex slaves, and some of the Muslim rape gang rapists in Britain would explain to their victims that they were doing this because it was allowed in the Quran.
And they are correct there.
Yep.
Redeemed One says, "I sincerely hope that more Christians around the world wake up to the reality of what Islam represents." God bless you both, David and Robert. And a few more comments, but yeah, we've already been going 2 hours, so we'll go ahead and wrap up. Robert, we are going to be on live again tomorrow. So what will we be discussing tomorrow?
Tomorrow we'll be discussing the case of Professor Nicholas Damask of Scottsdale Community College in Arizona, who was sued by a Muslim student and the Council on American Islamic Relations for teaching that the terrorists, the Islamic terrorists specifically, use Islamic texts and teachings to justify their actions. And this was actually the subject of a lawsuit that was settled this morning, or there was a ruling on it this morning in the U.S. District Court in Arizona. And so I won't tell what the ruling was, but this is all about whether criticism of Islam is going to continue to be legal in the United States. And there are a great many implications to this case.
So this is CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations, trying to silence a college professor from pointing out something that we would regard as pretty obvious and straightforward from the teachings of Islam.
Exactly.
And so CARE sued him to silence him. In other words, using the exact same methodology in a kind of different way as someone like Mohammed Hijab. It's always to silence. Yeah, it's always silencing people. And so one of the ways to intimidate people is to sue them and try to get them to lose their jobs and to
and it immediately succeeded with the college. I'm not going to give away everything for tomorrow night, but it's worth noting that the college immediately demanded that Damask, the professor, apologize, and apologized itself, and was in complete surrender mode until some people reminded college officials about academic freedom and the First Amendment.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll be talking about that tomorrow. We'll be going through. We'll check out some articles and discuss the situation and more about how this relates to Islam. Just a reminder to you Muslims who are watching, we want nothing but the best for you, right? I view you Muslims, even you really angry ones, even the hostile ones who are heaping abuse on us, heaping abuse on our families and so on. I view you almost as like I view people, you know, who'd been kidnapped and brainwashed or something like that, right? You know, so if you find out
They
someone's
have, in this very real sense, they have.
yeah,
been.
if you find out that someone's been kidnapped and brainwashed, then you know you don't, oh, let me go after this person, let me hurt this person. No, it's hey, let's try and help this person. When you've been told all your life that, you know, the only way to get close to God is through complete submission to everything that one of the most despicable people in history said or did or thought, you're going to end up with some problems. So we're trying to help you. That's what a lot of these videos are for. So when I blast your prophet, you tend to take it personally. Oh, he's attacking me. He's attacking me. No, I'm attacking your prophet. So you see how stupid it is to follow him, so that you can actually be liberated from this nonsense. All right. Any final thought there, Robert?
David, I think that you're completely on the right track, and that this is a message that Christians all over the world need to hear and heed. So more power to you.
All right. Lord willing, we will see all of you tomorrow, along with some pretty cool videos coming out. Again, if you didn't hear, if you came in late, check out Robert Spencer's YouTube channel. The link is in the description box, and his website, Jihad Watch. Definitely check that out. Best resource there is. Also, I didn't put the link in there. Maybe I'll add it later. I'll definitely add it to tomorrow's. Robert Spencer has the single greatest book in the history of the world on the history of jihad. So if you want to learn the history of jihad, get Robert Spencer's book, The History of Jihad. I've been studying Islam for years. I've been debating Muslims for years on the topic of jihad, and probably 70% of that information in that book was new information to me. So awesome stuff in there. And you really don't understand how relentless jihad has been until you see the entire history put forward. So check it out. Catch y'all later.
Yeah, they never stop coming. People don't know. Thanks, David.